friends, so as you can tell from the title of this video, we are doing a little reset before fall officially starts. Right now, it is currently the end of summer, which is so crazy to think about, but at the same time, I feel like for me, fall is just like when I reset everything. I decided that I want to do a little bit of a bookish reset, but at the same time, just like a reset of my life. So I just thought I would film a little video enjoying the last few days of summer while also resetting for fall. And because it's fall, it also means that I'm entering fantasy fall, which I'm so excited about. I have so much energy because I drank like a giant coffee this morning with tons of sugar. So I'm still running off that caffeine and sugar high. I thought I would use this energy to really just focus on some things that I really need to get done, like editing a video, planning the next few weeks and all that. And then we are going to read some books, and I have so many books and things that I want to get done. Let's go celebrate the end of summer and transition to the next season, which is fall. I wanted to take some time and savor some of the sun that is still coming through my window, but the books that I'm currently reading right now is The Squad duology by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. As you guys know, if you've watched other videos on my channel, I am a huge Jennifer Lynn Barnes fan, and so I'm currently just trying to get through her catalog of books. And so here's The Squad. These books were published back in like 2008, and I don't think a lot of people know about them because like literally these are the mass paperback versions of the books. Look how cute these are. Like you never get books like this size anymore. Like, okay, here's this book compared to like a hardcover of The Naturals. Like, look how teeny tiny that is. Like, it's so cute. But pretty much like this whole duology is about like this girl who gets recruited to be part of like the cheerleading team at her school. She's not necessarily like the stereotypical person that you would expect to be on the cheerleading squad, and then she learns that the cheerleading team at her school, they're actually like spies, and they're all training to be spies. It does give like very much like Gallagher Girls by Ali Carter, but at the same time it's so different. I just finished the first book last night, and so I'm probably gonna get started on the second book in this series. And so yeah, I love reading Jennifer Lynn Barnes books as well because they're so quick to get through. They're books that never put me in a slump, no matter what. Like they're books that like really help me to like stay and like continue my momentum in like the books that I read. And so she's always kind of like my palate cleanser when it comes to books that I'm reading. Sorry, I had to switch the angle as well because I need to show you what I'm reading next. I really want to do more like annotating ASMR videos and all of that because I did posted one before and it's doing pretty well. I don't know, the algorithm has picked it up, and I guess more people are interested in like learning or like watching annotating vlogs, I guess, or whatever. As for what I'm currently annotating right now, I'm currently annotating the Magnolia Parks Daisy Hates series, and so I did post like an annotate with me in real time video for this one. I'm actually doing the tandem read for these two books, so I've been switching back and forth annotating these books, and it's just such a fun like thing to do for the tandem read because especially when you've read the book series before, because you know exactly what's going to happen, but doing the tandem read you get to hear like the perspectives of like all of the characters involved, just like their different points of views and all that, like in real time. And so it's just more it's more of an entertaining read for me, at least, doing the tandem read. And I'm doing it with the audio as well because the audiobooks seriously eat. Like if you haven't borrowed or bought the audiobooks for this book series, please do because they're so good. I prefer the Daisy Hates audiobooks much better than the Magnolia Parks ones. The audiobook narrator for Magnolia Parks, she truly like brings Magnolia to life. Like I can't hear any other character except like Magnolia. Like her voice is truly like Magnolia Parks to me. I really don't have like a whole like guide on how I can annotate or how I annotate my books and all that. I just do it because I love it, and I'm also a really fast reader, so it helps me to like actually like slow down and enjoy the process of reading rather than like zooming through it and being like, okay, on to the next book. I decided to come outside to read since the weather is super nice right now and the sun's slowly setting, so I'm hoping to read some of this for a bit. I started the second book of The Squad by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This one kind of takes place a few weeks after the aftermath of the first one. I'm really enjoying this book series, or this like duology. They're just like really quick and easy to get into, and yeah, so I'm just gonna sit outside and read for a bit. And I feel like, I don't know, I'm trying to wear my hair more naturally. I have naturally wavy hair, and so I've been literally just trying a bunch of different like curly slash wavy hair routines and all of that, and so I'm trying to find one that like really sticks with my hair. We're going to try to read as much as possible out here while it is still very nice and very warm out, and yeah, let's get into it. It's been a hot minute since I updated this vlog. I'm currently at the bookstore. It is currently 7 p.m. right now, and the bookstore closes at 8. No one is here right now, which is kind of funny because usually this bookstore is crowded. I have some books I really want to pick up. It's been a crazy week at work, and so I'm just kind of here to decompress, buy some books, browse, and all of that. Let's head into the bookstore and see if all the books that I want are there. And someone just pulled up like behind me real quick. Not sure what that was about, but okay. It's also so hot out right now. Like, for some reason, summer, where I live at least, has been really weird. It's been like a really rainy summer, which usually it isn't. And so only like now at the end of August, it's like become super hot. So it's kind of messing with me, but yeah, I'm like currently burning up in here. So let's head into the bookstore and see if we can find some books. I'm back from the bookstore, and I would say that this trip was very successful in that I bought books, but I also showed a little bit of restraint and self-control in that I didn't buy all of the 11 books that I saw in said bookstore, but I thought we would do a little haul. And so obviously the first thing I saw was Catabasis by R.F. Kuang, and these wonderful sprayed edges and all of that. And the only reason why I was debating to buy this book in particular is because I bought tickets to like this event later in September where R.F. Kuang is actually speaking, and I believe we get a free signed copy of this edition and all of that. But I don't know, I just like, I didn't want to chance it. And also like September is, it's not like a whiles away, but like September 14th is like the event, I think. I don't think I could wait like 2 weeks to read this. Like, I kind of want to go to this event like knowing the context of everything that she's written for this book in particular. And so anyways, I'm super excited to read this. I love anything R.F. Kuang really writes and all of that, even though like the genre of her books are definitely more academic and all of that. I really like reading her style of writing, even though like she does get criticism and all that for how she writes and all that. But you know what? You know what, queen? I will stand behind you. And so I'm so excited to read this. And then the next thing I picked up was Fan Service by Rosie Danan. And the only reason why I picked this up was because I watched With Cindy's video about like the books that she read and all that in the summer, and this was one of them. And the way she was describing it, literally I was like, I need this book. Like, this book literally encapsulates my life and all that. I'm so excited to read this, like, you guys don't even know. And then finally, the last thing I picked up was this version of The Paradise Problem by Christina Lauren. If you know anything about me, or if you've watched any of my previous reading vlogs or anything, I probably would have mentioned that, like, this book is one of my favorite books. It's one of my favorite rom-coms. I am obsessed with it. This paperback literally has the art of the characters on it, and so I needed to have it. And so yeah, I'm going to probably treat one as like more my annotated copy, and then one not annotated, and just to have this one might be the non-annotated one just because of this art, and I'm afraid to write on a book with such cute art on it. I'm so super excited to reread this book because it's just like the perfect summer book to read. And if you love books about rich people and their problems, it's a good time. It's a good time reading it. I think these books are like the books that are like on the top of my current TBR. But other books that I'm reading probably for September and all of that, first one is Red Rising. I'm doing a buddy read with my friends. So I did try to start Red Rising earlier this year, but I stopped. I couldn't get into it. And it's just mostly due to the fact that like a lot of like sci-fi, fantasy, like those types of genre books, I only like to read in the fall, winter times. And so like now is like perfect kind of to get my foot in the door of that genre and all that. So I do have the audiobook for it, and I did download like the digital copy of it. So I will be slowly chipping at that throughout the month. I don't know how much of a reading vlog this is actually going to be because my reading schedule, if you so call it, has been literally all over the place. I don't know, it's just every time I buy books, these are like the ones I'm most excited to read, even though I have like 10 books on my TBR that I actually need to get to this year. And so yeah, I don't know where we'll be in the next clip, but here we go. I don't remember the last time I updated you. I think it was bookstore shopping, book shopping. I don't know why my brain is like malfunctioning right now, but today is Friday and I was supposed to work today, but then it turns out for Labor Day I have to work, so I had to take a day off in lieu of working on Monday for this long weekend. So today was kind of like an impromptu sort of take the day to relax and just do whatever. And so that's literally what I did. I woke up and my dad wanted to drive into the small town of Crossfield, which is like a small town near the city I live in, which is Calgary. And it's just a very like quaint, quiet town and all of that. It's very cute. It has a really good cafe slash donut shop there. So he really wanted to pick up some like fritters and all of that, and you know, baked goods from that shop. And so we drove there, which was like about a 25-minute drive, and he drove me around the town and all of that. And it just so happens that Crossfield is also the town that Netflix show My Life with the Walter Boys, that show is mainly filmed, it's kind of filmed in Calgary, but it's mainly like filmed in areas surrounding Calgary. So Crossfield is a big one. And so one of the videos I have from that town is like there's this building right beside this donut shop, and it's like an empty building, and it's mainly used for film and TV and all that. It's just like, it's almost like a filming location or whatever. It's just like this random building that's empty, and you can tell like there's nothing in it. That's like one of like the main like big shows that is like filmed in Crossfield. One of the videos I kind of wanted to make was like reading My Life with the Walter Boys, like the books, because they are filmed in my city, but apparently the books like and the TV show are very different from each other. And so I don't know if I'll still do that video. If you're interested in that video, then maybe. Anyways, we came back into town and we stopped at the mall. One thing I learned now is that HomeSense sells books, and it is like that is the best news ever for a book lover because the books are quite cheap there. And so the books I ended up picking up were Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wong and Real by Kennedy Ryan, and these were both in the clearance section. So this was being sold for $24. Like, in Canadian prices, this is $40, and this would be $40 at Indigo. And so I think what HomeSense does is they price match to the American prices, if that makes sense. So it's like, if I bought this in American dollars, this book would be $30 in US. And so HomeSense at first was selling it for $30 Canadian, and then they reduced it to $24 Canadian. It's like still a very much a better deal than if you were to walk into Indigo and get this. So yeah, I'm super excited. This might be the first Emma Wong book I'm going to be reading. I know that there's a Sword of Kaigan, and I don't know when I want to start that, but I've heard good things as well. I just cannot bring myself to start an emotional book like that, and I hear this one's also very emotional, so this might be more of a like November TBR situation, because I feel like I read a lot of like more emotional, especially more emotional fantasy books in November rather than like the beginning of fall. So we're gonna hold off on this for now. I found Real by Kennedy Ryan at HomeSense for $5. And so I had to pick this up. It is kind of scuffed and all of that, but like, if you're gonna get a book for $5, I was like, I might as well get a book that I'm sort of familiar with the author. Again, I've never read any of Kennedy Ryan's books, but from what I've heard from other people is that her books are pretty good, or they're pretty digestible, they're pretty easy to get into. And like, I've always mixed up L. Kennedy and Kennedy Ryan. So L. Kennedy is the author that writes like the Off-Campus series and all of that stuff. Meanwhile, Kennedy Ryan writes more books that have actual like people of color in them. So just saying. But yeah, I picked this up. I don't really know much about this book, but I really am excited to read books. I'm really excited to read any new book I have. So those are the two books I ended up getting from HomeSense. And then I also picked up my banana matcha from the cafe that I love to visit. The thing about this cafe is like every time I go in, I feel like something like always happens at this cafe. And I feel like that's also why I like to return back there, because it just like, it keeps me on my toes. Because sometimes I'm there and I make an embarrassing fool out of myself, aka forgetting to how to use the payment machine there. And then there are other moments where the girls make my drink wrong, which I'm like, I'm fine with, you know, as long as we both catch that mistake, we're good. And then, I don't know, today I went there with my dad, and for some reason, like, the payment machine was not working, and so like my payment went through, and then it did go through, and then it went through, and like there was just, it was a whole thing. But anyways, ended up getting my drink, got my matcha. So I think for right now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna clean up my area because it's not the best for filming right now. I'm gonna clean it up, and then I'm going to try and finish the one book I'm reading right now, talk to you about the other book I'm reading right now, and then we'll go from there. I'm gonna continue to drink my matcha, do some cleaning, and then I'll return to you when I return to you. Mini mic is finally out, but I just finished reading The Squad Killer Spirit by Miss Jennifer Lynn Barnes, and so I had to come on here and talk about it with you guys. This book was a part of her The Squad duology. I believe these books came out back in like 2008-ish, so like they're pretty old, but these were like one of her first books that she's published. I think she published 3 books before these ones. I haven't been able to really find them, so that's why I got these, and I believe that she's coming out with or she's republishing them. She's traditionally publishing them with new book covers, but the stories pretty much stay the same and all of that. So this series I would describe as like a mix of like Charlie's Angels, Totally Spies, the Gallagher Girl series mixed with like Bring It On. Like it's just a culmination of a bunch of different types of media, very feminist-esque book, you know, but in like a really fun and campy way. This is pretty much about this girl who gets recruited to be on her high school's like cheerleading team, and she's just like this girl you would never guess she would be a cheerleader. She's just like not about that life, you know, but then as she joins this team, she learns it's actually just like a cover for them being secret agents and all of that and spies. It's a very fun concept of a book and all of that, and there were parts of it that I liked reading and I found enjoyable, but I think I liked the first book a bit better than the second. I think the first book was more so of her introducing like this world and the main character kind of coming to terms with like, you know, what being a cheerleader is and what being a spy is, and you know, her being put in all of these very like funny but like crazy situations joining this team and her learning how to be a part of this team. Whereas the second one, it kind of tries to, you know, carry on the mystery of kind of what happens in the first book and all of that, but at the same time, I think there were just a lot of competing things in the second book that I could tell that this was a very early work of Jennifer Lynn Barnes's, because it just didn't feel as mapped out as like her other books and book series. I feel like the second book was really, it just never really found its footing or anything like that. She was also trying to juggle it with like them being actual teenagers and going to school and dealing with a lot of like things like teenager things like homecoming and all that. Like I feel like there was just a lot of things happening in the second book that it was just way too hard to balance everything out, that I feel like more things fell short. It did feel a bit unfinished. Like it feels like there should be at least like one more book to kind of like wrap everything up and all of that. There are tons of characters in this book that get introduced, but then by the time it ends, you know, their character arcs don't feel as fulfilled as they could be. And so yeah, that's what I think of The Squad. I think I would give Killer Spirit 3.5 stars. It wasn't my favorite book, but I was still entertained, and I did love kind of being in this very like, again, like campy cheerleader world. I feel like a lot of us can like relate to watching media, especially if you're a girl, like watching something like Totally Spies or Charlie's Angels. It was very nostalgic of a lot of those pieces of media. That's what I wanted to say. And so yeah, that is A Squad by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. So completed that book. The next book I'm probably going to continue reading is Fan Service by Rosie Danan. This is one of the books I picked up from the bookstore the other day. I don't want to talk about what this book is just yet. I kind of want to leave that for my actual review, so I think I am going to pick this up next. Same with Homeseeking by Karissa Chen. If you watch my 24-hour reading video, this was one of the books that I was in the middle of reading, and I just had to put it down because I had to really digest my thoughts. I want to at least try to complete this weekend because it is the end of summer, and I feel like this is just a good book to end summer off with and all of that before we transition into fall. And I think that this book is a very good book to transition into fall. So hence why I'm reading these two books. And then obviously I have my TBR cart right behind me. So those are all the books I'm planning on reading in September, October, November. Let's move on to the next books that I'm reading. With another man, I knew that I won't forget. Forget me, I was walking away. I just spent the past like hour and a half reading Homeseeking by Karissa Chen, and I am now like, I've only like gotten a few chapters past where I last left off, and literally like everything in this book makes me cry, but I'm going to keep the quotes to myself until I finish this book, which I will finish this book this weekend. My brain is all over the place now, and also because I have a matcha, I think I'm much more talkative when I drink matcha, so now my brain is running like at 1,000 like paces per minute, and now I just want to do everything that is on the mental checklist that is in my brain. And so right now I have like this box that has been literally sitting here for the past, I don't know, I think literally like the past like 4 months that I just have not gotten to because I've been so busy, but I have to go through this box. Pretty much it was a box of stuff that was already in this room. I moved it down to our basement, and then my dad was cleaning our basement, and then he moved it back up meaning I have to go through everything in here, see what can be recycled or kept or whatever. And so I don't think it'll take me too long to do that. I've been pushing it off for like the longest time, that now I'm finally in a place where I'm like, okay, I think I can go through it. Like it's fine. And so yeah, I think I'm gonna do that and watch some videos. Hey friends, I'm back. And yes, I've been jumping between a mini mic and not using a mic because I can do whatever I want on my channel and I like to keep you guys on your toes. I just finished cleaning that box and I found a lot of goodies in there. I found a lot of just like old school assignments and all of that, and stuff that I like had since I was like a child. So that was kind of like a weird nostalgia box for me. But anyways, cleaned that up, recycled a lot of it, and now I am back at my desk, and I don't know if like we're on the same side of TikTok or not. Maybe after this video we will be. But for some reason my whole For You page is on the side of like personal curriculum TikTok. And so what that means is that a lot of people who have either graduated from like university, school, all of that stuff, they are making their own like personal curriculums for pretty much stuff that they want to learn outside of being like an adult and being in control of like what you do with your free time and free will and all that. And so for my ISTJS, because my MBTI is ISTJ, I fell in love with the concept of having a personal curriculum and just like being able to learn about different things and different topics that pique your interest outside of something like work or school or anything like that, and just doing it on your free time just for fun is like, I don't know why I never thought of that and all of that, but this semester, I guess, I wanted to try doing that because I wanted to really just like dive deep into topics that I have always had an inkling to learn more about, but never really got a chance to learn about it like on a more in-depth level. Or, you know, I've always made excuses of like, oh, I'll learn it later, or I'm too busy to learn about this stuff now. And so I wanted to make this semester more so of a time where, now that I'm kind of in the swing of things, working wise and all that, I just wanted to take my time to just learn and use my free time to learn about topics that have always piqued my interest, but I just never had a chance to like learn these things or anything until now. I kind of broke it down into a whole month, like a whole semester thing. So from September to December, I'm going to dive into these topics and all of that and kind of structure it like I would in school and all that, but more so it's just for me to go at my own pace, learn about these different subjects and different topics that I really wanted to learn. And so on my personal curriculum this semester, first off, I really just want to learn more about AI, artificial intelligence, in the sense of just being more informed about it. And, you know, it's something that is obviously more apparent in the world, specifically generative AI with like things like Chat GPT and all of that. And being someone who works in marketing and in digital spaces and all that, it's just something that I want to educate myself more about, and I want to kind of dive deeper into the topic. And I think there's also a lot of misinformation about generative AI and all that, because it's not necessarily a new technology, but it's a more prevalent technology in society now, and the way that it's growing and the way people are using it and all of that is just very much, you know, it's shaping our society and all of that in good ways and bad ways. And so I just want to be more informed and more educated on that topic. The second topic I want to really dive into is more financial literacy and all of that, now that I'm someone who is now an adult. Like, I'm now working an adult job, and now I'm getting, you know, benefits and insurance and really making an income. I am now learning as an adult for the first time of just like all of these things about like how you can invest and, you know, really just like thinking for the future, and also figuring out how like taxes work and all that. Like, I want to take it upon myself to just be more educated on those types of things, because I am a functioning adult. My frontal lobe is developing, and so I feel like now is the best time than ever to just learn more about finances and financial literacy and all of those topics. My third topic is more so just like an interest that kind of peaked in me like within the past couple years, and that is just like the area of just forensic psychology. And this really just stemmed from my love of Criminal Minds, because I binged that whole show a year ago, I think. And I love, just like mysteries and thrillers and with those different types of books that I read. And so I want to learn more about just like that whole sector of criminals and like how the law works and profiling works, like just like the broad scope of just like what happens in Criminal Minds. I want to learn more about. And then finally, the last one in my personal curriculum is more so connected to my job and all of that. And that is just updating my design portfolio and all that, even though I have a full-time job and all that I plan on staying for the next like few years in or whatever. I want to kind of document a lot of the projects that I'm working on at work and all of that. And so I don't want to do it by the time I'm looking for a new job, or something else maybe happens, like if if I end up needing a portfolio, I would love to just have a portfolio ready to use and, with projects that I already know and can talk about and all that, rather than like trying to remember the project that I did 2 years ago and all of that and try to find all of these photos from it and all that. Like, I just want to be ready and be prepared. That is kind of my personal curriculum and all of that for this semester term. And yeah, we'll see how far I get. I'm going to prep that. I'm downloading some textbooks right now for the forensic psychology stuff, and then I already started reading Nexus, so I think I'm going to write some notes about these different topics and all that. And also I need to pick up some like notebooks for this curriculum. I want to handwrite everything. I really want to just go back to like handwriting, annotating, all that stuff. I love an annotation. And so yeah, that is what I'm going to do for the next few hours, and then I think I'm going to go back to reading and all that. Last night and this morning I started reading Homeseeking again, and so now I'm almost 75% of the way through this book, and literally every time I like open this book, I'm hit with like so many different things that hit me like emotionally, that I think this is going to be one of my favorite books this year, but we'll see how it ends. There are so many quotes that like really resonate with me and all of that I'm really just trying to take my time and read this and really digest everything that I'm reading. I think for the next hour or so, I'm going to try to get through as much of Homeseeking as I can, and then I have a couple other things I want to get done on my plate and all of that, since I'm really trying to take this weekend to relax before the chaoticness of next week and all of that. And so yeah, let's get reading. With another man, I knew that you won't forget. Forget me. I was lucky when someone else. It wasn't you, and it wasn't me. You said I was walking with another man. With another man, I knew that you won't forget. Forget me. I was lucky when someone else. It wasn't you, and it wasn't me. I just finished reading Homeseeking by Karissa Chen, and I am honestly not okay right now. I love this book. I'm just gonna say it. It is one of my 5-star reads of the year. Just everything about this book kind of exceeded my expectations in a way that really surprised me, in the sense of like, this is a book that I don't think I would ever pick up unless, you know, like on my own. A lot of the YouTubers I watch read this book and had very, high opinions of it. If I saw it on like in the bookstore or just like on a shelf and, not really having the context of what this is about before, but it just ended up being one of my 5-star reads of the year. I am so glad that I really did decide to take the time to slowly read this and all of that because there's just so many things about it that, I feel like you just can't rush through and you really have to sit there and digest it, or at least in my case, because it's just a book that hits really close to home for me. And I think it's also a book that covers a lot of different themes, and the way it's told, you don't really know what you're gonna get out of it. And I think that's what's so unique about it. This is gonna be like probably the worst description of what this book is about. But pretty much, it's about these two individuals who grew up together in Shanghai in like the early like 1920s, I believe, or like just like very early 19th century. Things happen and they end up getting split up and they end up running into each other in like their late 70s in the supermarket in LA. And this book pretty much just kind of uncovers their history and sort of what happened between them, and what kind of led them back to each other and all of that. So one of the characters, the story is told from their, it's like in a way dual point of view. One of the characters tells a story from present to past, and then the other one tells a story from past to present, and by the end of it it comes together and all of that. And so it's a very unique way of telling a story, and because of the way like it's just set up like that, when I first heard about that I wasn't necessarily sure like how that was going to work. Reading it though, it kind of like, it's a bit trippy at first, but once you kind of understand how, the each narrative sort of goes and how they're supposed to like intertwine and interconnect, then you start to get used to it. The only thing I can really say about this book without giving spoilers is that the reason why I like this book so much is because it just, everything about it feels so human. It covers a lot of specifically Chinese history and the events that these characters had to grow up with, and these specific events that led them, to doing specific things and all of that. And so it's a lot of, there's a lot of history about like China and Taiwan and Hong Kong and, all of these different places that I feel like if you're not super familiar with, like, Asian history in general, specifically East Asian history, I feel like this book is actually like a pretty good starting point because it touches on a lot of the politics and sort of just like events that a lot of the times like our ancestors like had to go through. And I feel like for me this hit really hard because it definitely does cover the Asian American experience a bit, but more so as to like the stories as to like why specific people like immigrated to places like Canada and the US and all of that. Like for me, my grandparents were the ones that immigrated to Canada from China, and so this kind of in a way felt, again, it is like a literary fiction and all that, and a lot of the situations that these characters go through are fictional, but at the same time it's still like in a way historical fiction as well, because a lot of these events were real and they took, they were real and they did affect people. And some of these events affected my grandparents and sort of why they immigrated to Canada and all that. And so I feel like it's just so layered, like it's a very multi-layered book. And we talk about the events that pulled people away from the homes that they grew up in, and the people that they loved. And so I think this book just, it covers a lot of themes, but it does so in a way that's like not overwhelming. But at the end of the day, like the only word I can really describe this book to be is just it's just a very human experience. There are these characters that have been through so much and so much struggles and so much trauma in all of that, but it's written in a very, digestible and unique way. And it's like every character that you meet and come across in the story, you, in a way, like, you learn to understand them and you learn to understand their motivations and the struggles that they went through and sort of, the struggles they have, the mistakes they make and all that. There's just so many layers to this book that I truly love. And I think for me, it's like, yeah, this book just felt so human while reading. But at the same time, it's just like there were just like a lot of like little quotes that really hit me. I did want to share some of my favorite quotes from this book. And they're just like quotes that even though they don't really like play an impact to like the plot or the characters or anything, they're just sentences I thought were like really beautiful and I really enjoyed reading about. So here's one of them. The gnarled branches of the banyan tree filled Suchi with unbearable sadness. Her eyes traced the lines of each root and vine, searching for their connections, following where one tucked in and disappeared into the shadows, and where it reappeared and branched into another limb. She loved the tree's complication, its chaotic beauty, and yet she couldn't decide if she felt its unruliness was one of creation or destruction. And then here's another one. It's like, from the haven of the taxi, he could appreciate the beauty of the snowflake, its miniature geometry. Like much in this world, what was beauty and what was torment depended upon the context. And then I think like this quote that I'm going to share with you, I think this one encapsulates the main theme of the book, which is homeseeking. Like the title is called Homeseeking for a reason. Suchi knew now that home wasn't a place. It wasn't moments that could be pinned down. It was people. People who shared the same ghosts as you, of folks long gone, places long disappeared. People who knew you, saw you, loved you. When those people were far flung, your home was too. And when those people were gone, home lived on inside you. When you take those quotes like out of the book just by themselves, like the impact isn't really there, but like while you read it and you know of all of like the context that has happened in the book, like those small little quotes just hit you so hard. And those were quotes that I'm kind of just like in my brain, I was like, write that down, write that down, write that down. And so yeah, like that is really like my thoughts on homeseeking. It's a book that encapsulates so many themes, but I also think it's a book that like it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but I personally really enjoyed it and I think this is also a debut novel. So this being a debut novel is also kind of like crazy to me cuz it's just like I feel like some debut novels now like they just hit. And so this one really just hit me in my feels. Like every single character felt so real and I just felt like every emotion that they were going through. And so, yeah, that's what I think of homeseeking. And so, I think I'm going to get some stuff done for the night, but I think tonight I definitely am in need of a more upbeat and fun read. So I think I'm going to try and read as much of fan service as I can. And yeah, those are the plans for the rest of the night. Hey friends, so I spent most of the day reading Fan Service by Rosie Danan, and so I finally finished. And I have so many thoughts about this book, but let's just say this book was everything I wanted and a bit more. The reason why I just didn't want to talk about it throughout this video or anything was because I really needed to like sit there and sit with my thoughts on what I felt about this book. And I honestly had such a fun time reading this book. It was just like There's so many things about it that I felt like were so relatable to me and just connected with me and my life. I feel like I've been keeping you guys in the dark about this book for like this entire video. Pretty much, this book is about this, in a way, like not necessarily washed up actor, but pretty much it's about this actor who spent like the past 13 years or so of his life filming this teen werewolf TV show that is reminiscent of a lot of different like young adult, cable TV shows that a lot of us grew up on, like Teen Wolf, Vampire Diaries, like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Supernatural, like that kind of vibe. It's about this actor who, spent this like 13 years of his life filming this werewolf TV show and all of that. And now, it's been years since that TV show ended. He's in his 40s now, and his career hasn't grown in the ways that he thought it would. It just gets to a point where he's kind of hit like, in a way, rock bottom. Like his agent breaks up with him. He is really, set on making like a reboot of this TV show that he was on and all of that. And in a way, it kind of mimics a lot the things we see in reality when it comes to like, the actors that, were a part of a lot of our childhood and like adolescence and teens and all of that. And then, we see them now, and like them, their careers have all of them have had very interesting careers, but pretty much in this book, he ends up, in a way, transforming in real life into a werewolf. And so that's kind of where like the magical realism element to it kind of plays into it. This strange occurrence happens, and we're not really like told why. Like it is sort of explained in this book, but just in a very passing manner. It's more of sort of like this guy, he's hit rock bottom, and he ends up turning into a werewolf, very similar to the way he did like 13 years ago filming this show. But when he was filming this show, they obviously like used prosthetics and all of that to make him into his werewolf form, and now he can like fully transform into a werewolf. He has no idea where this werewolf power has come from and all of that. And so he himself is very concerned. And the thing is, he transforms into a werewolf in public. And so everyone sees him in the streets of LA, howling at the moon and stuff. And everyone thinks he's like having a mental crisis. And like, this is a big PR publicity stunt. Like, this is him really just trying to get that reboot on the go. But this guy, should probably tell you his name. His name is Devin Ashwood, which is such a funny name. He's like, okay, like this is really concerning me. Let me do some research. And in his research, he comes across like the fandom, like Wikipedia page of the show that he was a part of. And so he's like, you know what, like, let me talk to whoever the moderator is for this fandom, like Wikipedia and all of that. He sends an email to this moderator. And so we're introduced to the other kind of side of the dual narration of this book, which is the moderator turns out to be a girl named Alex Lawson. And, she started watching the show when she was like 15 years old, and it became very much a comfort show of hers. And pretty much the lore of kind of her side and how she fits into everything is that she was the moderator of this fandom wiki. And so she ends up meeting Devin Ashwood when she's, I believe, like 18 years old or something at this fan convention. And she ends up having a not so great interaction with Devin. And so because of that, she, in a way, has a lot of animosity toward the guy, even though she still spent years like curating this fandom Wikipedia page and all of that. So they pretty much meet, and she agrees to help him figure out this whole werewolf situation. And so this whole book turns into that part, as well as like very much a romantic comedy-esque type book. And so I think what I loved about this book so much, though, is that like it just combines all of the campiness that you know and love when you're watching those kind of like CW MTV shows where, supernatural like things are happening in this small town and these teenagers are trying to, figure out what's happening to them. And there's, just like, it's just like these really like unreal situations. And, but they lean into the campiness, they lean into the humor, they lean into the weird experiences. And that's what I really loved about reading this book, is that this book doesn't shy away from being in a fandom. Any person that has been in a fan base, you can really connect with that whole experience, because it's just like, it's an experience that a lot of us have. You look back at all of like the, like how passionate you were and all of these stuff you were committed to feeding your brain and all of that. It's just so fun to look at from a perspective like this, where it's turned into very much a romantic comedy that really just embraces, being a fangirl, and then also just embracing like the campiness of, yeah, all of those shows that we watch honestly probably weren't the greatest. But, it's like, I think what made a lot of the shows were the actors, and the actors just like giving it 110%, even though the stuff that they were doing on those shows were absolutely feral at times. And so that's what I really loved about it. There's a lot of, again, references to just like 2000s fandom culture and all of that. I was in the Teen Wolf fandom. I loved Teen Wolf. We do not talk about the sixth season of it. There were just so many like references to like that show. But I think what makes this book stand out more is just that it's just so relatable. It highlights a lot of different fandom experiences, but it also feels like you're, again, like watching like one of those 2000s like shows. Sometimes you just got to accept the situation and we move on, and we don't talk about the inconsistencies and plot holes and all that. And that's what this book gave. Like, if you're someone who wants like a full-on like explanation as to like why this dude is turning into a werewolf, how he's turning into a werewolf and all that, you're not going to get it from this. This is more so about the banter between the two characters. These two characters are also very well developed, I would say. The plot moves super fast as well, and there were moments mainly toward the end where I was kind of just like, okay, like I don't know where this is going, and I'm not the biggest fan of where this is headed, but I know in the end something's gonna happen and things will be made up. And so, yeah, like overall, I had a really fun time reading this. It was just so like reminiscent. It really leans into just like suspending that disbelief and just, having those vibes, because honestly, a lot of the book, or a lot of the media that we consumed, when there were like 22 episodes of like men just taking off their shirts and, bearing fangs and, hair or in like random places and showing those six-pack abs, like, there was a time and place for it, and we just let it happen and we just embrace the cheesiness. And I think that's what this book is really good at. Like, if you are ready to just embrace some cheesy, stuff happening, and a lot of just like the campiness that, we really didn't blink an eye to when we were growing up and all that, like, I think you're gonna have such a fun time reading this book. I gave this a 4.5. I think the plot was fun, the characters were well developed, and I liked the relationship between them. And for the supernatural, crazy elements, 5 out of 5. Honestly, like, I was really transported back into my Teen Wolf days and all that. And also, if you don't like the idea of a werewolf romance or anything like that, I don't think you would like this. When we're ranking supernatural creatures, I would say werewolves are pretty up there for me. I don't know what that says about me, but yeah, those are my overall thoughts on fan service. I think I'm gonna end this video here. I am so glad I ended off with a great book that I feel like is such a good transition also to fall and all of that. And so I literally cannot wait for my fall reading videos. I have so many books that I want to get through this fall and that are on my TBR. So I think we will get to those in a bit. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please comment, like, subscribe, whatever. And yeah, I'll see you in my next one. Bye!